Netball is the game that nearly every young girl in New Zealand has played. It is the game that I played and loved and still love. Over the years, there have been some young girls skilled enough and lucky enough to reach the highest level and wear the black tunic and the silver fern. I do hope you appreciate hearing from some of these great players and hearing a little about them and our wonderful game of netball.
My first memory of netball would have been down at the Hagley courts, but just standing on the sideline, absolutely freezing, and watching Mum playing. As a child, I started out doing athletics, and just from Mum and Dad's background in athletics, and we all went along. It's what we did after school. We'd all pile into the family yellow Ford Falcon and head down to the track and run around, and yeah, that was basically from as long as I can remember, we did that, and then had a go at every other sport that was going at school. But netball was the only winter sport for girls that they had a full set of bibs. They didn't have a full set of hockey sticks, so I sort of channeled into netball that way. My family was probably always into sport in the way that it was always just part of a lifestyle for us, and it was part and parcel. We had in the garage weights and javelins and shot puts and discuses, fairly standard fare, and lots of balls floating around. And yeah, so it was, I guess we just thought that it was normal. I first made the Silver Ferns in my 7th form year at school, so I was 17, and I had no idea that the Silver Ferns were being named. At that stage, I was only in the under-21 New Zealand squad, and we were aiming for the World Youth Cup later in that year. So I guess when I was named, it was a huge shock, and I wasn't even in the New Zealand squad, wasn't in the fold. So it was a bit out of the blue for a lot of people as well as myself.
We're just so proud of Renee. She's always been a wonderful daughter to us.
I remember just the immediate sort of reaction, the interviews, and almost that instant expectation was quite huge, but I still had no idea what it was going to mean for sort of the ensuing 10 years that I was to play for the Silver Ferns. Just elated, just so excited. It's hard to describe, really. To me, education was always an important part of growing up, and Mum and Dad always wanted us to play sport, but also the emphasis was on education. And funnily enough, I was the kind of kid that I loved school as well. So academically, I enjoyed languages at secondary school, but yeah, just enjoyed going to school and trying to really push myself as far as I could go. Well, in my day, the game of netball was still fairly amateur, and there were lots of us that became teachers. I think just because it fitted in well with training and work and playing. And there were some absolute mad times. We had a tour to South Africa, and I remember it was end of the year, so we had exams, we had reports to write, and I'd been named, I was captain of this team, the Silver Ferns, heading away. And by the time I left, I'd done many nights staying up really late, writing reports and marking. It was taking me, I think my school set English papers were taking me half an hour to mark each paper, and I thought I'm never going to get there, and I had to take my reports on the plane up to Auckland, where we were having our training camp before we flew out to South Africa. And I was so panicked and stressed when I got up to Auckland that I ended up, when we had half a day doing our photo shoot, handing out delegating for various people that were teachers as well to help me out with some marking and some report sort of scribing for me while I told them what to write down. So it was pretty mad, but I managed to get on the plane and was able to relax, and then we actually ended up winning that tri-series. I played as a defender, but every defender has aspirations and dreams of playing as a shooter. Like, we always joked that the shooters were the glory seekers or the glory girls, and but yeah, I had no talent under the ring in terms of getting it through the hoop. I remember early on trying to shoot, and the Claire Lennon, my first netball coach, sort of shaking her head and sticking me down the other end of the court, and I was always tall, so I was going to be at one end of the court or the other, but no, defence was definitely in my blood. We had a conversation with Anna Robery once where the defenders, we were saying how we loved that, you know, nothing could beat a great intercept, and the middies screwed up their faces, and Anna Robery was like, what do you mean, a good feed? You know, we had got such a rush from a good feed, and the shooters, well, you know, for them, everything's about the shot. So, I mean, that's the beauty of the game, really.
I love netball because I love the physicality of the game, I love the skills of the game, I love competition, and at the end of the day, I mean, I think it was the people involved in the sport that kept me in there for so long and are still keeping me involved here. I mean, there's some great women involved in netball. Well, I think the '87 team was a special team for several reasons. I think the core of the team had been together for quite some time. And the core, I mean, you know, Lee, Tracy, Y, Margie, myself, so, and I think Julie had been there too. So we'd been together for quite a while, so we got to know each other well. We had pockets of, you know, players around the country as well. Funding wasn't that great back in those days, so getting together as a group didn't happen that often, but we were able to meet and train together, like in the Waikato in Hamilton. There was Sandra, Tracy, myself, I've probably forgotten somebody, but you know, we had the ability to train and push each other, and we helped at one stage. We asked Lynn Parker to come in and take our training sessions, and she just pushed us to the max. So physically we felt we were prepared, better than we ever had been. And I think mentally we were ready as well. As I said, '86 was a tough year for us. We had a point to prove. We felt like we'd done the work, and I think being together as a group over a number of years gave us that sort of, Lois used to call it the invisible thread. You had that intuitiveness on the court.
Margaret Forsyth, brilliant player.
After netball, after my netball career, we had a family, and then I joined the police force, became a police constable. And for me, that was something that I'd always wanted to do way back when I was at high school, and it was either teaching or joining the police. And it just seemed like the right time. I mean, at first I thought I'd be too old to make the cut-off with the requirements, but no, I was certainly within the age range and managed to pass the tests. It was sort of that seemed to be one of the hardest things, was to actually make the grade and be accepted. But yeah, I really enjoyed police work. I enjoyed frontline work, made some great friends. Yeah, enjoyed seeing another part of our society. Yes, I'd love to play the modern game. Yeah. I think the basic principles of the game are still the same. You've still got to catch the ball, shoot the hoop. And I think the physicality's part of it. You get what you give. Yeah, it'd be great. My advice to a young girl wanting to be a silver fern would be to play the game as much as you can and play lots of other sports as well. I think that I don't think you should limit yourself to one sport at an early age, and enjoy what you do.
first memories of netball are probably cold winter mornings in Pāro, fog, and just lots of running around. I don't even know where I played or what I did. But probably the real first disappointment memory was actually making the Pāro C reps when I was in Form 2 and thinking that I was never going to amount to anything. So it's amazing what happens after a few years. I think my most special memory would have to be the World Champs final in Jamaica. It was an amazing team, a fantastic final, and just this wonderful sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that we all had, and yeah, not much else tops that. I think netball has changed a lot over my time, and certainly the shift from playing outdoors, where you you bled when you fell over, to the indoor environment where you actually bounce and get back up again. So therefore, the way people go for the ball, the contesting has definitely increased. So the speed of the game as well.
So resist coming out the top unless it's the last option, okay? That's good.
I'm probably not a very emotional coach at half-time or pre-game. I tend to try and reinforce the game plan, reinforce the execution of it, and then just appeal to or hook into the emotional side that comes from within them. There have been times that I've read the riot act, and I think to the half-time at Jamaica in the semi-finals in this last World Championships when we were 7 goals down, and we did manage to turn that around. So it is saved for special occasions, I suppose, but yeah, they get a surprise when I bring out that card.
And the winner of the Spark New Zealand Coach of the Year for 2003 is Ruth Aitken.
Public profile is certainly part of the job, and it was one of the things when I was at my interview for the Silver Ferns coaching role. The question was asked, almost probably at that stage Helen Clark was Prime Minister. It was almost the next most important or most noticed New Zealand woman, and I must admit, while I was aware of it, I wasn't quite aware of exactly how it would be. My children used to find it quite interesting that we'd be out shopping and I would always be stopped and people would give their opinions on where Irene should be playing, what should be happening, and it was pretty hard to get a shopping load done in the supermarket. But it is wonderful that there are so many people interested. But it's one of the advantages of living in Pāro is that they knew me before I was coach. They'll know me when I'm no longer coach, and they'll always just still talk netball anyway. So I'd probably have to say the best country to tour would actually be Jamaica, because it is not a place that I get to very often, and it is so exotic when you get to see anything else other than the netball court. But it probably also would be the worst place as well, all wrapped up in one, because it is so limited what you can do. I've had some lovely glimpses of the other side of Jamaica. That's very interesting, but yeah, I love somewhere different. I think for any young girl that is dreaming that wonderful dream of becoming a Silver Fern, it's ensuring that you watch a lot of netball, look at your role models, enjoy what they're doing, be hugely motivated and excited by the game that they're playing. Obviously some good old work ethic comes in there, and work hard, but if it's your passion, just go for it. And if you get knocked back, just keep on going, because you never know what you can achieve.
To everybody here in New Zealand, this title, this trophy is for you.
Best memory of netball would probably have to be just going down to the Hagley courts in Christchurch with my mum and my older sister when we were too little to be able to play the game. And we used to spend our Saturdays running around the courts, collecting bottles, jumping in the creek, And just my memory of the hooter always going off, watching the games and always thinking, you know, God, I can't wait until the first day that I can actually play. So when that time came, I was 8 and I just remember being overwhelmed with excitement the night before my first game and putting on my little South Brighton uniform and, you know, having my own skirt and putting my own bib on. So yeah, probably the Hegley Courts in Christchurch would be, you know, my earliest memory.
What's the call? Play on, says the umpire. Cox calling for the contact. There it is! They have done it! 16 years and the drought is over.
Best memory of netball would have to be winning the World Champs in 2003. For lots of different reasons. Obviously the fact that we won it. The Silver Ferns hadn't won it in 17 years, so to go over to Jamaica and come back with a gold medal was just, you know, huge on so many levels. And that was a real turning point, I think, in netball where the game grew to another level. We had a lot more viewers, males started watching the game, it sort of got a lot more physical, so we got a lot more people on board watching the sport. The girls became a lot more marketable, we were sort of got a lot more media attention, so that was sort of a huge turning point, 2003. And I think because I'd played in so many World Champs prior to that, Commonwealth Games, and we'd lost, so to go over there and actually finally win a gold, knowing that we'd put everything into it, you know, just made it so much sweeter. Yeah, losing sucks, especially when you're at that top level and you pour your heart and soul into it, and you know, you're scrutinised in the media, you put a huge amount of pressure on yourself. Well, we did as a team, and then you've got the media expectation, the public expectation. So, you know, losing, it's not just about how you feel, it's, you know, the nation. And I remember losing in '99, and, you know, it's just the overwhelming feeling that you've let the whole country down. You know, that was just enormous to take. So I think losing when you're playing at the top is a lot harder to take, but you know, I just made sure that whenever we did lose, we learnt from the experience and, you know, took on board why we lost and turned it around and tried to play better the following game or the following test. Advice for young girls, you only get out of it what you put in, you know. I mean, I started playing netball at a young age, got in the Silver Ferns at 18, but, you know, I was training hard, you know, right from a teenager, and I just think the more you put in, the more you get back. I think it's really important that you have a balance in life. You know, while netball has been such a huge part of my life, I always did other things. I had a career, you know, I went to uni, I had other things that I enjoyed, and I think that's so important, especially now in the professional world of sport. I think a balanced individual is a balanced athlete, and so, you know, I'd encourage kids to you know, continue with their studies, continue with other things, and it will make you a better player. And yeah, just put in the hard work. You put in the hard work, you get the benefits.
The Halberg Award winner for 2003 is the Silver Ferns.
When I'm captain, there's extra pressure. Probably the only thing is the after-match speeches, really, that I used to think that was the only added pressure of captain. I sort of took my role as captain pretty, you know, it was a huge honour to captain the Ferns, but I didn't take it too seriously, and I sort of think when everyone gets out on court that everyone's got a job to do and it's not just the captain that's got to lead. So the after-match speeches are always something that you've got to, you know, think of what you're going to say and make sure you deliver a good speech. You know, apart from that, I wouldn't say that there's too much pressure. I think people that are named captain are people that have to take the knocks and tocks and have to take the good with the bad, and are people that can absorb the pressure, and I was able to do that. And, you know, I was fortunate that when I was captain of the Ferns, I was in a team with some great players around me, and, you know, they helped and shared that pressure and, you know, made it easy for me.
I think tonight we'll be celebrating in good form, and we've heard that we're quite good at dancing on tables, so if anyone wants to come and join us afterwards, then feel free. Thank you.
My first memories Probably be hanging out with my sisters. I have 3 sisters, and they love netball, so sort of hanging around with them. And then probably first team at Marshalling Primary School. I was in Standard 3 and got to play with the Standard 4 girls. But we had a wonderful teacher in charge. I can remember her name, Marcia Lewis. Her son was the Chris Lewis, who played tennis. So she was very passionate, and she was a great Standard 3, Standard 4 coach. So that's probably where I first really came to know the game of netball. When I was named in the Silver Ferns, I was just excited and very amazed and very thankful to be selected. It's just such an amazing feeling. Like Lois Muir was the coach at the time, and you're sitting opposite people like Lois and Lynn Parker Gunson now, and Iwan Wollering, and I was very lucky to be good mates with Waimarama Tamanu, but to see those people that you've seen on television and then suddenly being named in the same team, it's quite a thrill and quite exciting, not only for myself, but really exciting for my family members as well. I think what drove me was just the desire to be the best that I could be. And also the determination to beat the other person, and really it has to come from within. And so I might not have been the most athletic person, but if you sort of stick to things and you really put in the time in your training, and also you've really got to love the game to sort of, you know, be out there first thing in the morning for your training, after work, after school. And you really have to be a part of the team because it's a team sport. And if you love the game and you love to train on your own and you love to go to practice, you will achieve. The 87 Silver Fern team was very special because it was just like a family, and head of the family was Lois Muir and Monica Leggett, and they're very hardworking Kiwis. Lois Muir says it like it is, and I think high expectations were always her thing, and everyone trained really hard, and I think we were just a very fortunate group of young women. I think there was tremendous drive because most of the team in 87 were in Singapore 4 years ago, where the team came second, and I think when you train with that in mind for 4 years, when you get to World Cup in 87, you can't turn back the clock and you can't turn back that moment in time. So to win that at a World Cup, it is very significant, and it's a lot of hard work and planning that went into that. But I think Lois, she's like a very special person in all of our lives, and I think her leadership and her drive and determination really came through. We had some Pacific Island players, you know, just she understood the cultural makeup and how to get the best out of everybody, and yeah, it was a great family team.
The big pass, and then the little flip-on pass, quite brilliant from Fatialofa into Ironia.
I love the modern game, but I'm very happy with the time period that I played. Yeah. But it's very physical, but I think there's still a need for subtlety and definition and point of difference and skills. So whilst everyone is faster, fitter, the game is essentially the same. We're still looking for that subtlety that sort of can change a defence, you know, half a centimetre so that we can feed the ball through. So I think the modern game is very exciting for the young women of today, but I must say my time was just as great, but probably that was the time that I am best suited to.
When I was first named a Silver Fern, I was actually in a physiology lecture in my second year at university, my first year of physiotherapy. I had my Walkman on discreetly so that they couldn't see at the front of the lecture, and I was named about 9:10. The lecture started at 9 o'clock, and all through the lecture, I can't believe it, but I sat through the lecture and all through the lectures couldn't wait to get out and tell the world. Only person that knew was my friend sitting beside me, who became probably the best note taker I've ever had. And finally, at the end of the lecture, we burst out, ready to tell the world. Very excited.
Well, maybe there is someone more popular than Sandra Edge. It's Leslie Nichol, the hometown girl, just 20 years of age. What a night for the young Otago captain, Leslie Nichol.
When I was named captain of the Silver Ferns, I was very young, and I felt very honoured, and was probably very surprised to be named captain. It was quite a difficult time, really, because I'd only been in the Silver Ferns about a year and a half, 2 years. A lot of Silver Ferns are retired, and then there were also still a number who were a lot more experienced and older than me. So I guess I came into it with a little bit of apprehension, but really looking forward to the challenge. When those sort of opportunities come up, you never turn them down. Some of my best memories of playing netball probably include firstly playing in some very amazing teams with some fantastic people who have ended up being great friends right through the rest of my life. So establishing friendships and having some very good memories from good times together. And then finally, from the netball side of things, winning world champs in 2003 because we'd fought and had to strive so hard for it. And also one of the earlier memories from World Under-21 champs winning in Fiji against Australia, mainly because we weren't expected to win at all, and New Zealand hadn't won a lot at the Under-21 level.
No trouble to her. And for some inexplicable reason, the darkness descends upon the court.
It was played outside, and when the lights went out, we're in pitch black darkness, couldn't see anything. The other teams, because they'd already finished the tournament, got up and were dancing and singing around both the New Zealand team and the Australian team. We sat down on the court in a small huddle, trying to keep focused and remain in the game. And in the end, it probably worked to our advantage, because when the lights came back on, we were able to sneak ahead and come out with the win. When I was playing netball, the game was amateur, and so a career is very important. I still believe it's very important, no matter whether you're playing professionally or at an amateur level, to have some other thing in your life in terms of balance and also for career. I was fortunate that when I was at secondary school, I was playing so many other sports as well as netball and juggling schoolwork, that when I went to university, it was just part of my life. I was used to having to be organised, being very disciplined in terms of the time that I got up each morning so I could fit in my training plus get my study done. I spent a lot of time probably on planes reading notes. Even when we were travelling to play for Southern Sting, I'd travel from Dunedin to Invercargill, and I'd take all my books in the car and I'd read all my papers in the car, and you learn to be very, very flexible. Also, sitting exams when you're away is very difficult, and I was probably lucky to have the support of a number of coaches who also encouraged a balanced perspective to life.
Supporting at the line again, Nichol.
I was driven to keep playing netball because of my love for the game. I'm very, very passionate, and I think I've been very fortunate to be able to live my passion. Even from a young age, I just couldn't wait to the netball season to come around. I did athletics, played tennis, did lots of horse riding, but it was netball that was the main thing for me. And that probably carried on right throughout my netball career. I'm also very, very competitive. I like to win. If you talk to Julie Seymour, we're both pretty competitive. And I was fortunate we're in the team together because we could drive each other along. I'm also just love playing the game, love getting out there. And when you stop playing at international level, you realise why you played. There's nothing like that intensity of game, playing goal for goal, and I guess the pressure, but it's a pressure that makes you perform at the highest level. In my life, I have a number of heroes. Probably firstly, my parents, for the massive contribution that they've made throughout my life. I don't think you realise till you become a parent, just the sacrifices that your parents make. And also especially my mum for giving me the belief in myself, and also just always being there to support, no matter whether you're struggling, when you're on the down, if you don't make a team or you're playing badly. They're always the ones that think you're playing fantastically. And finally, more recently, one of my heroes would be my husband for his support again and for encouraging me with my career while he is also doing his.
I actually trialled for the Silver Ferns when I was at school and I missed out, so I was pretty determined that the next time, I was obviously going to perform a lot better. And the trials were held down country, and after the trials were completed, you go into this room and then it's named in alphabetical order, and so obviously I had a long time to wait. But the thing was that I travelled down with another teammate and that person actually missed out, so it was a very quiet drive home, with very little to say, of course, so it didn't really sink in. But when I got home, all my club teammates, my collegiate teammates and other colleagues as well were at home waiting for me, and we had a huge party, and then I guess it really, was there, and I realised, then it wasn't just about me, but it was about all these other people as well that obviously helped me to achieve. I mean, obviously the naming as such was brilliant, but it wasn't until, in those days we were given a blazer, and when you actually put your blazer on, you felt you really had achieved, and I remember putting my blazer on and walking around and how proud I was, and it was a tremendous moment until I came face to face with a mirror, because honestly the blazer I had big shoulder pads in it, and I already had broad shoulders anyway, but it didn't matter because it had the Silver Fern and that's what it was all about. But 2 years after that, we really thought we'd made it, because not only did we get the blazers, and in those days there wasn't as much sponsorship, but we also were told that we were going to get these evening frocks, these evening dresses, and going, we're made, it was just wonderful. Well, when we saw the management in these evening frocks, we thought, yeah, they look really nice on them, but we expected something different. Well, we didn't. And we got these evening frocks, and I'll just show it to you to show you what we were prepared to do for our country, eh? And this was it. Now, I have no problems with this. I think it's not bad looking at all. But now you've got to visualise 18 people walking into a room wearing this, and it was just so funny. And yet we still wore these with pride because they belonged to us, and we'd earned the right to wear them. So I still think that's what it's about, and that's why I talk about pride in appearance and pride in obviously performance as well. And that to me is what it is all about. Especially, well, it's any time, but also especially when you're playing for your country. To me, I probably select players more on attitude, because if they have the right attitude, you can teach them the skills necessary. And to me, like a winning attitude, it isn't about the score at the end of the game, it's about looking within yourself as to what you could have done better. Win or lose, it's what you could have done better as a player, rather than blaming your umpires and your weather and everything else. That to me is a losing attitude, and I just really can't be bothered with that. The World Cup final in 1999, I often do speaking engagements, and I bring that up and I say, I've only just sort of come off medication and counselling, and I think as a woman we tend to hold on to things far more so than men. I mean, men basically say let it go, but it's something that is always there. After all, the world champs were here in Christchurch, and to go into that final quarter being 7 goals up and then losing it by 1, yeah, that was soul destroying. And then Sherelle McMahon, and I've spoken to her about this as well, she didn't even know that she'd scored the winning goal right at the end, so yeah, that was devastating obviously, because until the last sort of quarter of an hour, I suppose, we were the better team on the day. But I think what happened there is that we became very score focused rather than performance driven.
Did it go through? Did it go through or not? I think it is Australia's win.
I'm even asked, what did I say to the players at 3/4 time, and I'm going, well, I certainly didn't say, hey, listen, let the Australians catch up because the crowd is going quiet, so yeah, it's one of those things. I think that everyone became what I call really score driven, and we just assumed we were going to win it, and it didn't happen. But it wasn't just us as well. I heard afterwards that some of the administrators had gone into our dressing rooms at 3/4 time and put in all these black and white balloons and champagne. Well, they obviously rushed back into that dressing room and took all these things out at the completion of the game, So there was like 1 goal between winner and loser, and yet it was devastation. And yet, 2 seconds, 1 goal, and we would have been the heroes as well. So, that's what sport's about, and it is about the highs and the lows. I love the Corvettes. I'm really a bit of a car nut. I've always had enthusiasm for them. And then I took a tour party over to the World Championships in Scotland. And on the way over there, I stopped in LA with my little, traveller's checks, and managed to buy a Corvette. So had that shipped home while the rest of us went over there. So that's a car that will stay with me forever. It's just it's just the look of it, you know, it's all engine, and it's a sort of car you either really like or you don't like, and I just think it's just a wonderful car. In my spare time, obviously I like to be away from netball, and I do enjoy gardening when I have the opportunity, and I have a passion for animals as well as cars, but certainly for animals, and certainly have a multitude of animals ranging from kuni pigs, goats, chickens, dogs, cats and rabbits and guinea pigs, and you name it. So yeah, I enjoy that. A lot of them are what I call rescue animals, so you know, if I can provide them an opportunity, I always say if I can provide them with a better home, then normally you know, I'm a bit of a sucker and I take them in. But yeah, I just enjoy, you know, coming home and just relaxing amongst them, and everyone being in harmony obviously with one another. As a coach, I'm really not into awards because really you're only as good as your last game, you know, so, and it's all about certainly result driven. But it's quite interesting, when I received the Officer of New Zealand Order of Merit, it really meant something to me, and it actually surprised me how much it did sort of affect me. I had the opportunity of taking my parents and my brother down to Wellington to receive the award, and I guess it was a little bit because of the fact that we'd immigrated to New Zealand. We'd had a really tough time when we first came here, no English, and you know, my dad certainly had it tough. And here I felt that suddenly we'd made it in New Zealand, and it wasn't just about me, it was about, you know, everyone that was associated with it. So yeah, it was a really proud moment, and one that I really enjoyed sharing with my family.
My first memory would be at the Matamata netball courts, playing for Hinura Primary, wearing a yellow t-shirt and a black skirt with a thermal underneath and stockings, being frosty, freezing cold, and trying to shoot because I was a shooter when I was little. When I was first named as a Silver Fern, I was at my house in Hamilton, and we went out that night actually to celebrate it on a Wednesday night.
It's Timabara George with a centre pass. They're up by 5.
The world champions, and they are now gold medalists.
My best memory of netball would be winning the Commonwealth Games gold medal in Melbourne in 2006. That's the biggest highlight I've had so far, playing in a final with a fractured ankle and, you know, to beat Australia. What I expect from a Silver Fern captain is someone who leads by example, is a great role model for players as well as the public, but someone who also can be themselves on TV or anywhere. Netballers that I look up to are probably my own teammates, you know, the ones that you're closest to, the likes of Irene, Jolene, Laura, because they're the ones that I mix with a lot. But also, I never really watched that much netball when I was younger, but someone that does.
The way that I got into netball was that I was sent over to New Zealand to play tennis, but I just feel that going over at 17 is a bit late for tennis, so got there in time for the netball season, and that was in Wellington, and started playing netball there, and that was it for me. Back home, I didn't know about the Silver Ferns, you know, but until I went to New Zealand, I saw all these Silver Fern players in Wellington, and I just wondered whether I would get there one day. It never occurred to me that I wanted to play for the Silver Ferns. It's just watching them and then getting involved in the game and really enjoying it. I just thought, oh well, you know, I'll give it a go. Maybe I will make it. I knew that I was the first Cook Islander to be in the Silver Ferns, and I didn't realise that I would be the first Pacific Islander as well to make it in the Silver Ferns. But that was a big thing for me, and you know, I was very proud of that. Being a Silver Fern helped me through life. Okay, I had to behave at all times because I'm being marked as a role model for young netballers, and of course off the court, anywhere that I went, I had to really behave myself and make sure that I said the right things and I did the right things and I didn't go out of place, and yeah, so it did change my life a lot. the 1987 team was very special to me in that a lot of us had played all those years and coming up to 87 and then winning the championship. We had really bonded well and really got very close with each other. And of course that was the year a lot of us moved out and the new lot came in. So that was a very, very special year for me also because I retired at that year. I moved home because we were always going to move home. My parents, both our parents were here and they're getting old. And we were always going to come back home because this is our home. Our parents have always told us, come home, make use of the land and raise your children here and just go through what we went before as well. But I think this is our land and although I love New Zealand, that's my other home, but because the parents are here, the family's here, and of course to put back what I had learned, what I had experienced in New Zealand, just to put back into our sports people. I love netball because I think it's a skillful game. There's a lot of skills involved in it. And of course the other thing is playing with the other girls and there's a lot of enjoyment in it. And then I love the competitiveness in it and of course the travel, although I'm not very good on planes, but just meeting new people and getting coaching from different people. But I think because netball is just the game at home and I just got hooked onto it and loved it and I won't get sick of it. When we played Trinidad at the 1979, my partner was so tall and she kept, when the umpire's not on our side, she kept standing on my feet. And of course I was trying to pull my foot back and all the crowd, the home crowd, were booing because they thought I was kicking her. And I just looked at her and I said, look, you're standing on my foot. You're standing on And every time she got pulled up for contact, she'll stand next to me and hit me or pull my skirt. And I will just say, umpire, she's doing this, you know, she's kicking me or she's doing that. So they would move away, make her move away. But while the game's going, you know, Lynn Parker's skirt got ripped off her. She ended up running with just her rompers on. Those were the really funny things that happened on the court. And yeah, but we enjoyed every minute of it. And of course, winning that made it even better for us. So, and we talk about it all the time. So, yeah.
Well, my first netball memory was probably back at primary school and watching my older sister play, and just me and my friends would play in the lunch hours and just dying to get to the age where we could also do Saturday netball and wear the real uniform and play a real game. And we had to be 10 to do that. So a couple of years just playing at lunchtime before we were actually allowed to play a real game.
Playing at centre tonight, one of the really informed players in New Zealand this year, the PIC centre, Julie Dawson.
In terms of being a silver fern, when I was young, I used to kind of make believe in my back garden. I'm sure a lot of Kiwi kids play in their back garden and pretend that they're playing sport for New Zealand. And I had a goalpost in my back garden, and I'd pretend that Sandra Edge was passing me the ball, and I'd be, you know, shooting the winning goal for New Zealand. But it was really just a game that I played in my back garden, and it probably wasn't until I left high school and I started to have a bit more success in netball and got into Canterbury under-21s and started being probably more amongst those top players that I actually started to believe that, yeah, maybe if I put in the hard work and the training, maybe I could get there. I think becoming a mother, I got a lot better at netball not being my whole life and taking over my whole life, and I had to suddenly be at home and organise the dinner and the meals and perhaps someone coming in to look after the children and then going off to netball. So I became very good at switching on and switching off, and I think that was good for my netball. I think if you think about it too much and it's in your mind all the time, sometimes can't be good for your netball. So I think I probably chilled out a little bit more, was a little bit more relaxed in my netball, but not to the detriment of my netball. I think that was actually enhanced my netball. How did I handle losing a big match? Yes, I've had a bit of experience about that. I've lost quite a few big matches in terms of World Champs and Commonwealth Games, and it's tough, you know, it is really tough. And as much as you tell yourself at the time, you know, I put everything into it, I couldn't have done any more, or the sun's still going to come up in the morning, my kids will still love me, you know, it's really tough to go through. You've put so much into it. Often there's been a build-up of not just months, you know, years leading up to a World Champs or a Commonwealth Games, and yeah, when it doesn't come off, it's pretty gut-wrenching, and yeah, a lot of tears over some of those netball games. I think I coped better as I got older, just having that more maturity to cope with it, but yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah, the Aussies, look, on the court you could not get more rivalry and, you know, kind of hate really on the court and want to get the better of them. But off the court, you know, they're human beings, you know, you can have a chat to them, and I think the ANZ Champs has allowed us to perhaps get to know them a little bit more. In the past, you didn't see them very often, just, you know, once or twice a year, and so you perhaps a bit standoffish, but yeah, off the court, they're okay. Why do I love netball? I guess partly because I was good at it, and I think people tend to enjoy things that they're good at, and I also just enjoy passing the ball around amongst your, what become your friends, your teammates and your friends. Yeah, I love the physical side of it. I play in the centre position, and there's lots of running, and just that feeling after a game when you've just given it all and you're absolutely exhausted. Yeah, I just love being out there. Someone that wants to be a centre, be fit. I think, you know, obviously you've got to have the skills, but if you haven't got the fitness to match it, you can't show those skills in a game. And playing centre for New Zealand, I can tell you, is just so intense, and you have to be so fit. You have that real anaerobic fitness to be going as fast and strong at the start of the game as well as at the end of the game. And I think that sometimes you see players that they're wonderful at the start of the game, but they really push off. And yeah, people always laugh because I'm a bit of a fitness fanatic, but yeah, fitness, very important at the centre.
My first memory of netball was in Tolaga Bay. I was, maybe 6, and my father was one of the teachers at the high school, so I was waiting at the high school for him to take me home, and they were having a netball practice, the high school girls, and they needed someone extra, so they put a bib on me and told me to stand there, which I duly did, and then decided I wanted to catch the ball, so I ran around and asked for the ball, and of course they were high school girls and I was 6 and they wouldn't throw me the ball. So I hated it, and I didn't ever play again until I was about 11. My first naming was 1981 in Auckland, and I was sitting between Margaret Martinger and Margaret Forsyth, and I was concentrating so hard on trying to ensure that she said my name that when she actually said my name, I couldn't work out if I had imagined it or she'd really said it. And then, of course, there was a dilemma of if I jumped up and down and looked happy, would that be stupid because I just imagined it? Or would I look too cool if I sat and pretended it didn't happen? So I leaned over to Margaret Forsyth and I said, was that my name? And she leaned back and she said, with a name like yours, how could you miss it? So that was my first time. I remember when I finished playing and watching the New Zealand Rugby League team run out against Australia, and I know how they felt. I could see in their faces, and I kind of knew I was never going to feel like that again. And I thought, well, I am going to miss this, even though at the time it's not a feeling that you really look to repeat too often in your life. But that real nervous anticipation challenge just before the whistle starts is something that not too many people get to feel. And it's not till it's over that you realise how much you're going to miss it. I'm a fairly structured coach. I'm quite a hard taskmaster. I have high standards. I insist that they're met. If people don't want to meet them, if they don't buy into why we're together, then I'm quite happy for them and I to part paths.
All right, I want your timing, so you're going to go one way and come. You're all going to go to the same side and take the ball on the same side. So it's just a fake and come out for it. Have a practice a couple of times up.
Coaching the England team against New Zealand probably wasn't that difficult. In hindsight, despite what I said and believed at the time, I'm not sure I ever really thought there was a great danger of beating them. And I think we were setting goals at that stage that were more around narrowing the gap. And I had built some quite strong relationships with the team, the English players, and I really wanted them to do well. So, you know, for me, it wasn't that nerve-wracking, and it certainly didn't feel particularly traitorous because I had built relationships with the England team and we were aiming to be better. And I guess my heart of hearts, I wasn't really sure that being a lot better was actually going to change the result. And certainly I think the first time we played New Zealand, they thumped us. I have a vague memory of the English shooter missing all her 10 attempts at goal. So, you know, whilst there may have been some trepidation going into it, that was quickly gotten rid of. Oh, I know, there's a lot of discussion about the modern game, about being very physical. Look, when I played, there was a lot of discussion about how physical I was. And when Tanya Cox and I both played, you know, there was a lot of discussion about how physical the two of us were. I think the game has moved on, it always does. We are coaching bigger, faster athletes on the same size court with a rule book that probably hasn't moved as quickly as the athletes have. So for all of those reasons, I'm not at all surprised that the game's become more physical. I said once that it's a game that I wouldn't want to play anymore, but I really should qualify that in that I have had a lot of injuries, and at my age and stage, it's one that I would be a bit fearful of going into. But if I was playing, I'm sure I would be in there with all of them.
My first memory of netball was biking down to the Gisborne netball courts on a frosty winter's morning. I was in standard 4 and I think that was when I first started playing. So I was really excited. I think I had my netball uniform on, which at those days, black netball, we called them basketball boots, gym frocks, and really excited. So just racing down there at probably about 8:30 a.m. on a Saturday mornings. When I first heard I was a Silver Fern, we had actually just finished trials. In those days, you trialled over a couple of days, and then the whole trialists, 21 of us, had to sit around in a room, very nervously waiting for the New Zealand netball president to come in and read out her list. So they would do it alphabetically, and at that time my maiden name was Mills, so I was a fair way down the alphabet, so I had to wait a wee while. But it's a really difficult position or situation because you were around people who missed, and you were absolutely elated, but you had to contain it, and because you didn't want to go, yay, we made it, and then realise that the person next to you hadn't. So very subdued, but inside absolutely elated. Best memories are team memories, but in saying that too, the games, the wins, the World Championship win in '87, because it was 4 years of remembering losing it in '83. So a group of us had been in that '83 team, and huge amount of resolve that we would win it the next time.
Get our angles right.
The sort of coach I was changed early on, particularly at provincial level. I probably was pretty vocal, I was pretty hard on the umpires too, and then moving into the Silver Fern role, I think I tapered that a bit, and certainly in the assistant coach role I felt my own confidence and style changed, and I felt that I was more a sit back, have a look at what's happening, and not actually reacting and jumping up and down. That was not productive. It's really being able to keep your emotions level, and probably toward the end of my coaching at that high performance end, and certainly now when I coach at club level or school level, it's sit back and have a look at what's happening out there and be reasonably calm.
Yeah, I'd love to play the modern game. I just would love that competitiveness, the ability to play top games week in, week out. Because when I was playing for the Silver Ferns, we played sometimes every 2 years. In the latter ends, we were playing more frequently, but they were the best competitions. And just getting out there and putting not just yourself physically against your opponent, but mentally too. And I would love that now. I'd love to be involved now. The skills for a wing defence are knowing what your role is, clearly knowing your role in the defensive unit. And sometimes it may seem like a backward or a lower key role, I guess, but you're vital, because if you're marking that wing attack and you're doing your job, you're cutting down that main supply line into the circle. And that makes those circle defence get the glory, but not really. I love that feeling of part of a unit and contributing to the unit. And if the goalkeeper or the Tracy Fair or Waitamana got the intercept, I felt every bit as excited for them as they themselves.
When I was first named in the Silver Ferns, I was a student at Otago University, and I remember flatting my lovely Dunedin flat, and I think that the team was going to be announced on the radio from memory. It was about 95, 96, and I remember being too scared to listen to the radio, so I remember going to the movies to try and sort of avoid the fact that I might not have made the team. But when I came out of the movies, my brother had left messages for me to say that I made the team, so I was pretty happy. I think it was, more that I'd finally made it than surprised. I knew I would be coming close to making it, and I guess you just hope that your name's going to be there, but you never know. You never take it for granted. That being named the first time is really special, and it's really exciting, and I was ready for it. I don't think being a captain made that much difference to my performance. I think I always would play the same game, no matter whether I had captaincy strapped to the end of my name or not. I think, it was an addition to your role, but I don't think it should have, or I hope it didn't ever have an effect on me just doing my own job first. Injuries in netball are probably, every netballer has them, and I think the biggest thing is dodgy ankles and dodgy knees, and I've had my fair share of those. I rolled so many ankles, and to this day I'm still being hampered by dodgy ankles, and my knees as well. I had a real problem in my latter years with a degenerative problem in my knees, and that meant I had to sort of moderate and adapt my training to make sure that I was, sort of still being able to get up and run in the morning. But frustrating injuries.
And the Silver Ferns are runners-up once again. Australia, world title holders.
1999, the big loss by 1 goal, and it was just absolutely devastating, and took a long time to get over it, years and years without having to think about it, or having to play netball and not carry that burden of losing that match on your shoulders. And immediately after the game was just really traumatic and emotional, and I remember coming away and hiding in bed for 3 days, just sobbing. But it was a really challenging time, and I guess they like to say that you learn from things like that. But at the time it was really tough. My best netball memory, and there is so many because netball has just given me so much, but probably the win in the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne. I remember for the first time at the end of that game actually having a real sense of jubilation, and I think a lot of that for me was not only had we beaten Australia and won the gold medal, and it was a hard game and all that sort of stuff, and performed well,
But I had made a lot of sacrifices to get there, to get back into netball. I'd had my first child and been living overseas, and so I think it was a real accumulation of all those things. But yeah, that was one of my favourite netball memories.
Great pass there from Seymour, straight through into Colin.
I think the thing that kept me involved in netball was that I just love to play. I love the challenge of the game and the skill level, the speed of it, and I love to win. I was very competitive and yeah, just got great satisfaction and this great desire and having to get out there and have a good tussle and come off on top, and nothing compares to the Australian-New Zealand battles, and they were always humdingers and great favourites to be involved in.
Athletes, and also just competition and just the thrill of winning and winning for your country, your family and friends, those players that have played before you, who are going to play after you. It's just a huge honour to be playing in the black dress alongside such gifted netballers is just a huge thrill, and it's like an addiction.
Captaincy came to me in a very odd sort of way. I was named vice captain when I was quite young still as well, and I had been in that team as vice captain, but our captain was injured, so I took over the role in a kind of caretaker type way first, and then the next tour I was made captain. So being quite young, and there were a lot of players older than I was, so I had to really try and lead by example the best I could. There was no training then, nobody told you how to do it. Tried to stay calm, tried to help other people, tried to represent us well in other environments off the court, as well as be the best you could be on the court. So, as I said, lead by example. The role of centre in netball is an interesting one because it's a link between the two ends, the defensive end and the attacking end. But people play centre in different ways, so that they either link by taking ball and distributing it, or they link by clearing space for the ball to travel through, or the link happens between other people and they support it. So it's quite an art form to play in the mid-court to try and create space and create ball travelling space through the court. So centre, and it's a high demand position for fitness. It's people move most of the time, and people have got to be good at both attack and defensive options in their game.
Dunedin Stadium venue for the first of 3 tests against All England, and for the New Zealand girls as they get the feel of the place, all the comforts of netball indoors.
Some surfaces are boards and it's reasonably slippery, but the surface in Dunedin Stadium is uniturf, and it's very, very good to play.
And you enjoy playing
it's
indoors?
Really exciting to play inside, and it's certainly something that we've got to look to in New Zealand netball.
Moving from outdoor to indoor was fantastic because the whole game kind of settled and changed, and it wasn't so weather dependent, and the scores all went up, for example, and the shooters, I'm sure, were just thanking everybody for doing that. We'd been playing indoors overseas a lot before we actually went indoors in New Zealand, and New Zealand didn't have big facilities that they could hold test matches indoors. In England, for example, there's one indoor facility that holds 20,000, and so for the actual team who had been playing away, it was a really great thing, but we were also semi-expecting to be able to do that. In New Zealand, however, it was quite different. So the game was different. It meant that we had to have different shoes, different equipment, and we went, for example, indoors, and it's consistent now, the sprungwood floors, but I can remember one tour in England, we had 16 days of play in 12 different surfaces in that 16 days, and so one pair of shoes doesn't do that. So, you know, there was a lot of thinking had to go on as soon as we moved indoors.
Cross to Parker, to Gibbs, back to Parker.
I played in the time when we changed from being not known at all to having some form of television, and going right through that time from spasmodic and delayed television right through to prime time TV, test series, test matches live. So for all of us that was a huge change, and we had to be quite different people at times that we didn't have the skills sometimes, and so we just had to cope the best we could. There was never any training for us to be able to do that, and so I'm sure we made big mess-ups as well as did some things right, and that was an interesting change.
My first memory of netball would be when I was 7, when I first started playing netball, and I was at my nan's, and I used to wake up in the morning, have a bath and sit down and watch Fraggle Rock before I actually went to the netball court. So it wasn't actually on the netball court, it was actually the things that happened before.
And it is full time. New Zealand have handed out a good old-fashioned lesson to the Australians.
My best memory of netball would be in South Africa when we beat Aussie for the first time. Well, the first time I had been in Aussie, and it was just a one-off test. And then obviously the world champs in Jamaica in 2003. Amazing, amazing times. And it just like standing on the podium and getting the medal around your neck just kind of made you realise how much you'd given up or you chose to give up. And yeah, hard work does pay off in the end.
But there she is, the little pocket-sized battleship.
Really a crowd favourite, the darling of the crowd, so to speak.
They loved her, Temma Barra-Clark.
What drives me to play netball or to participate in netball is I've got this huge passion, I've found out. I mean, I've been in teams and out of teams, and in the Silver Ferns and out of the Silver Ferns, so I put it down to passion and just the love of the game, I think, and just always wanting to be better than I was before. So yeah, passion, I think. Yeah, I became a mum at a pretty young age and I was involved in netball. Yeah, I think it did change me. I think it made me become more responsible. And I think my time management got heaps better. Obviously you've got to, arrange babysitters and things like that. But also made me stronger. I think, there's worse things in the world as opposed to, throwing a bad pass or, getting knocked over in netball and things like that. So I think it made me stronger mentally and physically when I'm actually out there on the court. Yeah, I had the amazing opportunity to be involved with Dancing with the Stars, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun, but on the other hand, it was pretty hard. We trained 7 hours a day, 7 days a week, in high heels, so that was pretty hard for me. However, I think it did help my netball. One of the biggest things that my team kind of noticed was my posture. Usually I sit on the bench and watch the game like this, but I'd sit on the bench with my shoulders back. and it was a bit contagious too because the rest of the girls were doing it. The other thing that probably helped was Dancing with the Stars, and dancing training was more kind of like a Pilates kind of exercise where it strengthened the muscles and gave you good posture and things like that. So being out on the court getting knocks and that, my muscles were ready for it because of Dancing with the Stars. Yeah, any young girl who wants to be a Silver Fern is fantastic. They've already gone past the first step. They've got a goal, they've got a dream and stuff. So I think the biggest thing is to have your goals, to have a role model, and just to keep going until you achieve those goals. In my career, I kind of was told that I'd never be a Silver Fern because I was too short, but I proved them wrong. I just kept going, and I kind of rallied up the people around me who could give me the advice to do it, like the trainer, nutritionist, all those kind of things that are readily available for the youngsters these days, and just use it to the best of your ability really, and just keep going, never give up.
And the winner of the Senior Māori Sportswoman of the Year is Temma Barra-Clark.
There are a few reasons why I love netball. First of all, obviously I have a burning passion about the game. You meet amazing people. I've got lifelong friends through netball. The challenges you face on the court, because netball's changing
now, and the challenges you face off the court as well, because it makes you become a strong person. And also you get to travel to some amazing places as well, and you get to see a world with friends around you, you know, so yeah, I think those are the reasons why.
My first memories of netball are playing on grass courts in Canberra. I'm Australian. Yes, amazing grass courts, and we actually used to wear our socks over our shoes at times when it was really slippery. But yeah, that's probably my earliest memory. Back in the day, when the Silver Ferns were named, all the trialists were brought into a room, and the president of New Zealand Netball at that time used to call out the name, and it used to be in alphabetical order. So I remember the first time I trialled, I didn't make it, and I thought I must listen out for fear, and it was Forsyth, and it was all over with. And then the second time I trialled, I made it. So it was in a room with every other trialist, the ones that made it and the ones didn't. So it was pretty harsh back in those days. The 87 World Champs team was really special, and I think that came from, we had a soul-searching build-up, and we were in London, and we all sat around and we divulged our greatest weaknesses and our strengths, and heard from the rest of the team. So I remember telling my teammates what I found hardest to mark about them, and they did the same, and it was a very soul-searching moment, and I think by the time we'd finished that, we were prepared to do anything to win that gold medal. And I think the other aspect of it was that there was a core of players that had suffered defeat in Singapore in 1983, and the commitment from that core group of players to just make sure we didn't lose the next time round was most definitely a really strong feeling in that team. I think the game has still got to be fun. Doesn't matter whether you're professional or amateur. If you don't love it and it's not deep down there in your heart as something you're passionate about, you won't have fun. And I think the team these days, fun is a high priority, and you can see just being together and achieving goals is something that they gain huge enjoyment out of. So fun's definitely still there, and I think as long as all the values and the team culture are very much a part of it, it doesn't matter whether you're professional or amateur, it's still going to be one hell of a team. For me, it's definitely a game for life, and what I love about it is the team aspect. It's the people you meet along the way. I get to work with inspiring women on a daily basis, and it's not just the players and the management, it's all the people that are involved in helping the team be the best they can be, and truly magical women.
Congratulations to both sets of players on a great afternoon.
A young player that wants to be a Silver Fern, you have to be passionate about it, you have to be single-minded and prepared to do whatever it takes to develop. So you have to be proactive, you have to be prepared to work hard, and you have to have some great support around you to be able to reach that goal.
And Tracy Fair here, who's just popped a bottle of champagne over here. I think that's wonderful. Congratulations, Tracy. Should we have the champagne? How does it feel?
Feels great. I'd just like to tell New Zealand we've got the best coach in the world too. Really. Yeah. And thanks for all the telegrams and support. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Great. Yeah.
Thank you, New Zealand.
My first memory is playing for my under-9 school team, and it was on a grass court, and we played barefoot, and it was in winter, so we had massive frosts and my feet would be absolutely frozen and trying to play netball. So you slipped and slide everywhere, but yeah, great fun. I picked New Zealand because the first time we arrived in New Zealand, it was in Wellington. In Wellington, it was just a beautiful day in Wellington. You had the water on the one side, the hills on the other side, and it was just a clear day. And I said to my friends, this must be the closest to heaven you'll ever get because it is absolutely gorgeous. And I really loved the culture and the people of New Zealand. It really made me feel at home, and it is just really important to actually feel comfortable in the environment you're at. To the South African team, the Silver Ferns set the benchmark. They were, in our eyes, the best team in the world. And beating them was just incredible. It was like we've actually won the world champs. The next game against Australia was just purely formalities. It felt like we've beat the best in the world.
To the Silver Ferns, you're absolutely amazing. You play brilliant netball. Good luck for your preparations to the world champs, and just don't let the Aussies eat you.
We played against South Africa in the year 2000. That was the same year I was selected the first time for the Silver Ferns, and it was actually in South Africa. I can remember singing the New Zealand anthem and feeling quite stoked about it, and then as soon as the South African anthem started, I kind of had that, that emotion that was just overwhelming. And I can remember Yvonne stood next to me and she just held on to me and she gave me that extra hard squeeze, and it was like, I'm here with you. And I realised then I need to be strong because this is the rest of my future, and I had to go out there and play with confidence as well. So yeah, it was quite hard.
Come on, let's go.
I love coaching young girls because they are just so acceptable, like they are like little sponges. They take in everything you say, and I don't know if it's because I'm this tall, but they really listen and they're really eager and they go hard for everything, and they soak up everything you say. And because you're a Fern as well, they kind of put you on that little pedestal, and whatever you say, the mother could have said the same thing for about 20 times, it won't sink in. But coming from like a Silver Fern or me, it just sinks in straight away, and it's like, yes, that is what it said and that is how it should be done. So yeah, absolutely loving to coach kids. I love this game because it's incredibly competitive. It is skillful, and it is the best players in the country that compete against one another. So you show off your skills every week, week in and week out. You show your skill against the best in New Zealand and the best in Australia.
From the last World Championship, about 5, and they didn't ever want to be beaten by Australia again. And so I do think you take into that a work ethic. I could have had a training session for an hour, a lot of ball work, sure, but there was our fitness program at the time. We never had fitness people telling us what to do. And we would sit down just quickly beforehand, delegate certain people to run certain sections. They'd run an hour and a half program and I wouldn't have to say a word. They knew where they wanted to be.
What a tribute to her. She just, that little grin says it all.
Well, Murray, my husband, and my 3 sons were great for me. I certainly wouldn't have gone anywhere in the sport, in any sport, without them. They were marvellous. They all suffered a little bit, and I would ring Murray at any time. In the good old days, there wasn't the same phone system, and I said, I don't mind. What
first memories of netball would be in Toko, or Tokomaru Bay. and I remember having my uniform ready for Saturday on a Wednesday and just loving getting down to play, and just loved it. Just looked forward to it every week, and or every week for the weekend, playing with my friends. I just loved even back then I loved the running and the jumping and the anticipation and the defending, and just loved the physical aspects of the sport. My reaction when I first made the Ferns, it was 1985, but I'd actually been trialling for 3 years prior to that, and hadn't made the team, obviously, because I didn't get until 85, but I didn't care. I honestly didn't care about not making the team. I think I wanted to hear my name called out, but I was just so happy playing alongside the national team and developing players. I really didn't care. So when my name was finally called out, I thought, whew, finally made it. Took a while, but I finally made it.
Good. Running, you gotta run and start running.
I don't think you play sport to be in the public eye, but when you reach elite level, obviously there's that following, and I think you do have a certain duty to front up and answer questions and be there, be available. And in my experience, the media people were great. The promotions that I did for different product, again, great people to work with. I enjoyed it. I'd like to think they had my best interests at heart, and they were fun. There were some really fun opportunities that I had. Magazines and getting all flashed up, and it was really good fun and mostly good experiences. Most of them really good experiences. When I ruptured my Achilles in 1988, it was the last game of a series against Trinidad and Tobago. I think it was the last quarter, and it just felt like someone had shot me in the back of the leg, or the opposition had given me a boot in my heel. And when I looked at my heel, I couldn't move my foot. I knew exactly what I'd done. So I wallowed in self-pity for a little bit. It didn't hurt at that stage. It hurt initially, but it just hung there. And I think I was just tired. It was a physically demanding game. We did a great job. We were well ahead. It was the end of a series, and we'd won by that stage.
Not very steady, but at least she's there on her feet.
Never even crossed my mind that I wouldn't play again, or just got on with it, got fantastic treatment on it. Really, really fortunate that I got the best to repair it, and good care afterwards. And I did it on the, I think it was the 11th of May, somewhere around there, and I was back running in July, and I went to nationals in August, so didn't really hold me back too much. That tag of the best in the world, I don't think you think about it. You go out there to do your best, you're playing in a team. But I think when you, like today, look at someone like Sherelle McMahon or Casey Williams or Irene van Dijk, and just the quality of their performance, and while I didn't think about it, I think I must have had something like that for that to be said. So there were not so memorable games where certainly wasn't the best in the world, but to know that you have those qualities, and I think everybody works hard to develop those qualities, and I'd like to think I did, and it's a neat feeling, like when I look at someone like those netballers that I just mentioned, and you look and you think, wow, that's the best, and to be in that is really neat.